You're watching All About Money on HKIBC. I'm Isabel Wong. Well, the media industry touches our lives in many aspects, but a recent survey has found that the fastest growth will be in digital media segments, and digital revenue is expected to make up 60% of the industry's income in 2023. With digital media continuing to dominate the Hong Kong media industry, is the end near for some of the traditional media businesses out there? Let's bring in Cecilia Yao, PwC Mainland China and Hong Kong media leader. Cecilia, thank you so much for stopping by. So now, you have been a contributor of the latest report about the media and entertainment industry in Hong Kong and China. So my first question for you is that, because it's often said that the media industry is dying, it's very depressing. But in your view, is it really dying?
I wouldn't say it's really dying. It's actually just changing the form for the distribution. In the past, we use a very traditional way. For example, TV, we use analog. Then if you look at the TV industry, most of them are go to the digital. OTT, that's why it's a highest growth segment in Hong Kong. For example, paper, most of the paper, they either move to the digital format, or now there's a new emerging trend, especially in China and elsewhere, podcasts. They move the paper content to the audio type of the content. So to me, I would say this is only the shifting of the distribution method rather than dying of the whole industry.
Right, so from the latest reports that you just worked on, which are some of the sectors in the media entertainment industry that are doing well, and which are some of the sectors that might not be doing so well?
If we look at our report, so most of the digital related segments are going really fast. For example, like OTT, as I mentioned, which is the highest growth segment, which contribute 18.7% compound annual growth from 2019 to 2023. While video game is third growth area, which is 6.5% growth, and also internet advertising is slightly higher than the video game. For, I guess, a slight left behind segments, actually you can imagine, is a newspaper and also traditional pay TV. So both of them have a negative growth. For example, traditional subscription TV and home video, which have a 4.7 negative growth in the coming 5 years, while for the newspaper, it's a 2.2-ish something negative growth in the coming 5 years.
Right, I would like to bring the focus to OTT because with such the rise of the streaming platforms, how is it really affecting or changing the growth of some of the media segments? Are they eating into the growth rate of other media businesses?
I would say the key competitor for OTT is actually the home subscription TV, which is pay TV, which is the mostly affected one. For Hong Kong and also for a lot of mature economy, cord cutting become a trend. So they migrate from the cable TV to the OTT platform. So that is the biggest threat to the traditional media, as you said.
As you just mentioned, traditional pay TV, they are experiencing some negative growth, and we just saw, kind of mentioned the potential of the growth of OTT sector. So many actually see OTT as, a threat to the TV industry. So with such rise of the OTT market and even streaming platforms, we are talking about some international competitors, say Netflix and Amazon. With such strong competitors, is it almost the end for the TV industry? Does TV even have a space in the media market?
I would say in the medium term or long term, probably we would not use TV as a description of this segment, because in the future we are going to use the size of the screen rather than use TV particular term to describe, because at the end it's a video content. So video content can be distributed through a lot of platform. Big screen, that is what we understand from today is a TV. So that will survive for a long time, because big screen has its reason to exist. It's have a better experience and a better visual effect, so it will continue to exist. Just the consumption mode will change over time. Why OTT become popular is because they fit the consumer's preference. You can control, your consumer can control their own time, can control the content. So they make their own playlist, rather in the past we passively push the playlist to the consumer. Right now, through the OTT, through the internet, through the digital distribution method, they can create their own playlists, and then they can consume the content at the time they want to consume. So that is the reason why OTT gained the popularity over the traditional linear TV.
It's an interesting trend that you just pointed out there. So from what you just said, does that mean that, say, TV content, videos, and on-demand video content, they would somehow in the future merge into, say, one category, one market space? But then what about local players here in Hong Kong that are looking to tap into the OTT market? Like, do they even stand a chance competing with those international OTT players? Like, what kind of competitive edge do they have?
If we look at the development of media industry, you will see firstly all the content is actually imported from elsewhere, but eventually localized content becomes very important. So China is a good example. Hong Kong, like many years ago, also rely on import content, but since we have a very strong local production content in Hong Kong, so that's why most of the people actually consuming the local content. Actually, we do have a payer in Hong Kong local operator operating OTT. Some of the big broadcasters, they actually are not migrating, extend their content to the OTT platform. And some of the local players, they also taking the Asia Pacific market strategy to launch their services to Asia Pacific. So we are not only defending our territory, some of the players, they actually going into other territory as the service provider. So I would say, like local operator, they do have a chance if they have the right strategy and then they know the market well. So the content is still the king. So that's why a lot of OTT players, not only in Hong Kong, in China, and also even like Netflix, they invest a lot in the content. Content is always the key to have a contact with your consumer and attract their attention and keep that to your platform.
In terms of the successful case of like using content to tap the rest of the world and markets around the world would be, I would say, a Korean drama, right? Yes. That's one of the successful cases. Yes. But then I would like to talk a little bit about the 5G technology, because it is definitely one of the most talked about technologies this year around the globe. But also, we don't see wide employment of the 5G technology here in Hong Kong yet, given Hong Kong is actually a place where it has the highest mobile internet penetration in the Asia Pacific area. So in your view, do you see any sort of wide deployment or commercial deployment of 5G in Hong Kong anytime soon? And if you're not seeing this happening anytime soon, what's the holdup?
I think 5G is coming on the way. So just like a few days ago, China have granting the full license to the operator. Hong Kong, we haven't started the licensing the process yet, but we expect that soon will come to effect in next year. So 5G is a mature technology, but it still needs some development. For example, we always say, this morning I joined one of the technology forum, and we talk about the 5G. 5G is actually the good enabler. So it enables a lot of things to happen. For example, like better transmission of the video, faster transmission of the video, enable the automated connected cars to reduce the delay. So that definitely have a lot of prospect of the 5G in terms of the application. However, like the software development, operating system development, installation of those 5G sites still need time. So that would definitely help, especially entertainment and media industry. As we said, the OTT would definitely be this is a key driver for OTT in the future. And we also mentioned the VR. VR is very key a future for the entertainment and media segment as well. That will also need the 5G to enable the better service and better experience of those new segment.
I could also see, since with 5G, that is offering faster internet, that would be a good news to, say, video game lovers out there, right? So what about the esports industry in Hong Kong? Can Hong Kong really have the potential to reach the government's goal of becoming a regional esports hub, given there are actually many other established esports markets around the Asia Pacific region, such as South Korea, Taiwan, and Japan? So actually the esports would, as I said, 5G is an enabler. So
esports definitely will be benefit by the 5G. 5G, the beauty is that it will cover a very small area with very fast speed, and also it reduces the delay. If you are a serious gamer, you know the delaying is something which is not bearable, even like down to like millisecond or something. So this is the good news to the esports sort of players. I still strongly believe Hong Kong can play a very key role in the future of esports. Right now, esports is a very small economy, but the influence is very big. Just we need to have the right strategy, how to position ourselves as Hong Kong. I still don't think Hong Kong will become very a good training ground for the esports player, because given the population, given like the training sort of expertise, which may not help us to become like the training ground for the esports player. However, as we always saying that Hong Kong is a good transportation hub. Hong Kong has a good expertise to organize the big event. So this is our comparative advantage. I believe if Hong Kong pursuing the way like to be a big organized venue for the esports, that definitely has a great hope for on this area.
Right, Cecilia, hold that thought. We'll be coming back in a minute. Well, but still to come on the program, we'll be diving deeper into the media and entertainment business landscape in China. That's coming up next. Welcome back to the second half of All About Money. China's entertainment and media industry is poised to remain the world's second largest entertainment and media market. Over the next 5 years, China's absolute growth in the industry is projected to exceed the US for the first time, with virtual reality being the fastest growing sector. Still with us is Cecilia Yao, PwC Mainland China and Hong Kong media leader. Cecilia, well, let's bring the focus to China, because it's quite an interesting trend that you guys pointed out in the report that you worked on. Virtual reality is doing well in China, and it might be doing even better than in other markets around the world.
Yeah.
What is driving such growth in China?
Actually, VR is coming back, as we said. In the past, why the hurdle for VR development is the equipment, the weight of equipment is too heavy to put on the eyes, and also the technology of the delay that can easily cause the motion sickness, right? So as we said, with the expected coming on the way of 5G, that will definitely enable the development of the VR. Better equipments are on the way, and also a lot of, you can see more and more content or application related to VR is actually in the market.
So VR is doing well in China. So what about the general trends? What are some of the sectors that are doing well in China, and what are some of the sectors that Chinese consumers might be starting to ditch?
Actually, still the same, like digital related segment, they are doing well, like the OTT, like the internet advertising. Internet advertising is particularly fast compared to like Hong Kong. Which segment is doing less well is a more traditional one. For example, like TV subscription, which is pretty much remained flat, paper as well. So they are not doing as well as the digital related segments.
Right. So we mentioned a little bit about content strategy, because obviously, say in Hong Kong, there's more free content, and the whole logic behind providing free content is that media organizations can use free content to reach more audience, while some of the media organizations might be starting to embrace putting up a paywall again, given some of them actually taken down the paywall before. So what's the difference between the Chinese market and Hong Kong market? Like, what free content and paywall, what would work better in these two markets?
In China, it's a very classic example, transition from free market to paywall market. So back before 2015, so pretty much most of the content are free. But since 2015, because of government has launched some campaign to crack down a lot of sort of pirate content, crack down some of the streaming site. 89 site has been cracked down during that years that protect the intellectual property of the content. And also because of flying of easy payment, electronic payment. So that time is the flying of the mobile payment. Once you use your mobile phone, scan the QR code, you can easily pay. So everything is have the transaction cost. When you compare the transaction cost of paying for quality content compared to you go to the website to browse and then downloading the content. Which one is convenient, give you better value, then consumer will follow that. So since then, China actually establishing the paying habit. If you look at the current market, OTT is flying because people are willing to pay for the subscription fee, either for app block, for value-added service, or for any extra subscription of the channels. And also now there's a booming sort of sector is the audio site, which is what we call like podcasts. They also paying for the podcast as well, and they also paying for the audio book or electronic book. So the paying habit actually built up in China. In Hong Kong, I guess right now we're still enjoying quite a lot of high quality free content. So it takes time to transit from sort of free content to the paying content. At the end, I guess the business have to make the money. They invest a lot in the content. Content is the most expensive part in the entertainment media world. So if a business continue to survive, setting up the paywall is something inevitable.
Right. In terms of headwinds in 2019, obviously geopolitical tensions could be one of the headwinds that affects the performance of many sectors. What about in the media and entertainment industry? Do you see such geopolitical uncertainties would also affect the performance of the industry this year?
We will always say like geographical like uncertainty or certain policy uncertainty will affect the industry for the short term, but it will never be able to reverse the trend. It will never be stop the trend. So given we have the biggest technology breakthrough, which is 5G, and to sort of promoting the future growth of the industry, the trend will keep on going. Just could have like short-term sort of delay or whatever, but the trend will continue to grow, especially digital-related media segments. That will definitely be the future of entertainment media world.
In terms of the Chinese market, obviously one of the concerns the world has would be privacy or cybersecurity, because in some senses, as we are watching videos online, they are watching us back. This is the sentiment that everyone has been feeling. So with the growing concerns over privacy and, say, companies' use of consumer data, what does this tighter global scrutiny mean to companies that somehow profit from, say, selling or using their consumer data?
Like us as a professional firm, we promoting the protection of the data. And actually in China, some policy has already been implemented, like data privacy policy that has been implemented. So one of the key spirit is they do not really allow you to keep as much as you want, the organization want to collect or keep those data. Some sensitive data, the government start to asking question whether you need it or not. And when we sort of give some advices to the company, we also like advise them just to keep something that you need, not to keep some sensitive information that is for their company's security reason as well, because like for the data protection is one of the key factors for the success of the company. And also with the GDPR, as you are aware, there's a European data privacy law. It's not only applied to the European country, it's actually applied to all the organization who have the information of European citizen. So which is very pervasive impact. We also actually advising the company to follow the rule and also comply with the requirement of GDPR as well. So this is area, I guess the government and also like even the business world is paying more and more attention to this area.
In terms of the policies and regulations front, one of the industries in spotlight would be the esports industry in China, because obviously China is the world's largest video game market. But one of the things that the Beijing government did last year was that they were having this crackdown on video games and the whole video gaming firms sector in China. So do you foresee this still influencing or affecting the performance of, say, esports industry's development in China anytime soon?
Actually, esports is a way to prolong the video game. It's not many sort of game will become the popular esports events, so only very selective one be there. So they have been there for quite a while. Just could be the newcomer might be delayed for a bit, but it wouldn't affect the overall industry as a whole, because for each esports games that could be there for a couple of years. this is one of the things. So we don't think this will affect the industry for the long run. Anyway, the industry issue right now is too many game developers in the market anyway. So the competition is very keen. It's not only the government sort of policy stop approving the game. Even like among the industry, it's very competitive. For the survival of those game developers, it's become very tough. I would say like the competition is there.
So in terms of like how close the Hong Kong market is to the Chinese market, obviously Hong Kong market and Chinese market are still keen on developing the esports industry. So in the long run, which market do you see would be more like a regional hub? Would Hong Kong be the regional hub, or China would be the place to be?
Right now, if you look at China, although it hosts a lot of international events, right? It has bigger venue, bigger population, but some of the games, they are very local. For example, like Wang King of Glory, and also like PUBG, it have their local version, and also versus there's an overseas version. So right now, China is still very sort of a siloed market on its esports itself. Overseas is another market. So Hong Kong can sort of take the advantage of being the center point between China and Hong Kong and to the rest of the world, and to see how we can sort of be the bridge between two areas. This is one of the areas we are also driving as well. Some of the, for example, we will not be able to register as a King of Glory account user in China. So that will really impact the Great Bay Area, the overall development plan. This might be something like the regulator or even like the organizer need to be aware of, how Hong Kong can be sort of taking this advantage as being the door of China to the rest of the world.
So after all, looking at all the sectors, all the different segments in the entertainment and media industry in Hong Kong and China, what are some of the, say, biggest differences in terms of market dynamics and, say, consumer demands?
I would say like the consumer behavior is quite different within China compared to the rest of the world. Hong Kong consumer behavior is more close to the rest of the world. In China, still like the local content is very important. For example, drama, even like movie. If we look at like the sort of big box movie, it's more and more local production movie getting the attraction, getting the box office. Same as our local produced drama is also gaining the popularity as well, which may not fit the sort of taste of Hong Kong as well. Hong Kong, a lot of consumers still sort of following the Korea, US type of drama. So this is behavior-wise very different. Another one is a consumer payment behavior is very different too. I guess this is because of the payment system. As I always say, if Hong Kong's OTT market or the other sort of entertainment media market has to grow, we have to sort of learn from China to adopt the easy payment system. In that way, you will be able to address a fragmented market like China. China, when we compare the sort of service plan, service offering, have a greater variety compared to Hong Kong and compared to the rest of the world.
Cecilia, thank you so much for the insightful chat. That was Cecilia Yao, PwC Mainland China and Hong Kong media leader. This is it from this edition of All About Money. We'll be back right here on HKIBC next Sunday. Good night.